Welcome to another edition of the Miss Retrospective with Kirby Carreon. And just like the last episode, guys, unfortunately, the camera equipment was not working as desired, but I still promise to bring you a lot of quality with the conversations that I am having with my guests. So for just the first few episodes, I just want to give you guys a heads up that there will be no video. As I get more resources, there will be video attached over to these conversations. But for right now, please enjoy my conversation with Ryan Davidson as we discuss the GHC Heavyweight Championship match between Kobashi and Misawa back in 2003 for Pro Wrestling Noah. Welcome to another episode of the Missed Retrospective here with Kirby Carreon. As you guys know now, my blind spot is from '04 and before, as well as pretty much anything outside of North America, well within WWE, if you will. And that's what I'm trying to fix here with this podcast. Now, today, I'm actually very excited to have this guest on here because this man has basically been nothing more than maybe a big brother to me. That's a pretty big deal for me. So for those of you guys that don't know. So Ryan Davidson is here with me. He's had many monikers before. The Bear.
I'm clapping for myself. If y'all can't hear that, that's it. I'm clapping for myself. I'm a mark. It's fine.
If we all got to be a marks for ourselves here in this business. But this man has literally been here from the inception of reality of wrestling, and
Since
even before
the wheel was invented, I've been here at reality of wrestling.
And quite frankly, one of the most knowledgeable minds that I've ever met. If there's anything wrestling related that I've ever had questions about, this man knows it all, even personal stuff. But we're not going to go there because this is all about professional wrestling and as well as some movie media eventually. I promise you those episodes will be coming by. I want to do Sixth Sense actually because I've never seen it and I call myself a horror movie fan.
Hold on, wait a second. We're doing wrestling and you've never seen Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense?
Never.
Buddy.
I'm working on it. Don't worry. I want to do an episode with Brad Gilmore where I watch Back to the Future for the first time, even though I've seen it bits and pieces when I was a kid.
But you're not going to get
never
any better
once.
than watching it with Brad, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that'll be in the future. But Ryan, for those listeners that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been doing wrestling? That way they can kind of get a gauge of where your knowledge comes from.
Sure, man. First and foremost, God is good, and thank you for having me on this show. Second of all, if you don't know who Grizzled Ryan Davidson is in the Texas wrestling realm, brother, sisters, have you been living under a rock? I'm the greatest of all time, by God. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, 21-year veteran in professional wrestling. Fortunately enough, by the grace of God, I've wrestled all over the United States. I've wrestled in Canada and wrestled in Japan for both DDT and All Japan Pro Wrestling and a handful of other Japanese promotions. And I am the journeyman's journeyman. I am a guy that has literally scoured the lands and trying to be the best professional wrestler, not only for myself, but for everybody else around me. And I've been at reality wrestling pretty much. Fire was created by the cavemen. When you get knowledge from a two-time WWE Hall of Famer and Booker T, and then, of course, there's Charmel and the amples amount of talent that comes through reality wrestling. Hey, man, you have no choice but to be good, brother. It's like the SEC professional wrestling, you know what I'm saying? To where, in college football, everybody that's in the SEC is basically like the powerhouses of college football. Well, it comes to pro wrestling, brother. When you're in reality wrestling, you ain't got no choice. You got to be good. But I'm excited to be here. Kirby, every project that we do, I love you. Every project that we've done and everything like that, it just continues to flourish. It's always a great time. But today, brother, I'm excited for this match. Now, have you ever seen this match in its entirety?
Not until last night. It was my first time.
This match, I'm going to give you a little background on this real quick. This is considered, right? Now, take all the great wrestling matches that everybody's ever talked about. Shawn Brett, WrestleMania 12. Taker and Shawn, WrestleMania 25, right? We can go on and on. We could talk about Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Halloween Havoc. We could talk about Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Royal Rumble 2003. We can go on forever. But this match right here, brother, this match, Kenta Kobashi and Misawa, March 1st, 2003. This is considered the greatest match of all time.
And I like the fact that it has that moniker.
Yes.
Because, as you know, Heather's not a wrestling fan.
Right.
And Heather, I was sending her clips as I was watching this because I paused it and I went back to just rewatch stuff. And she was like, are they actually killing each other right now? What is this?
Yes. And see, here's the thing. So you told me from the gate to where it's all like, hey, who are your favorite wrestlers? And usually my go-to is always Eddie Guerrero, right? I mean, why would it not be Eddie Guerrero? He's literally the GOAT in my mind. But right there with him on my Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling is Kenta Kobashi. Now, I know a lot of Puro enthusiasts, they always talk about Misawa. They'll always talk about Kawada. They'll always talk about Hiroshi Tanahashi, Keiji Muto, Hashimoto, and rightfully so, right? To me, it's Kenta Kobashi. And what's great about this match is that you got to understand that where like every organization has like a group of wrestlers that like this is the benchmark. These are the collective that represents our company. Well, when it comes to All Japan Pro Wrestling back in the 80s to like basically 90s, right? It was Misawa, Akira Taue, Kawada, and Kenta Kobashi. All right, they were known as the Four Pillars of Heaven by Giant Baba. Okay, and then of course when you have in New Japan, you had the Three Musketeers, which originally it was Keiji Muto, Hashimoto, and Chono. The new Three Musketeers, it was Shinsuke Nakamura, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Shibata. So the common thread here is that you basically have a group of guys that represents like, hey, if there's a group of guys that represent our style, our company to the fullest, it's these individuals here. And with this match, right? Misawa is basically the ace of aces. He is the top dog of All Japan. And then, of course, they had the great exodus in the year 2000 where Misawa and Giant Baba's wife, after unfortunately Giant Baba passed away in 99, they basically had a business conflict. And Misawa was like, well, I'm going to go make my own company, which is Pro Wrestling Noah. So it was a mass exodus. So like Kenta Kobashi and all the boys, they were like, hey, we're with Misawa. He's our guy. So they all go to Pro Wrestling Noah. Now, during this time is that, everybody talks about the classic match between Misawa and Kawada because they used to be a tag team and they just have these crazy, crazy matches, right? And of course with Akira Taue and obviously Kenta Kobashi. But the thing is that Misawa always had Kenta Kobashi's number. Always. Right? Because Misawa was basically like the big brother and Kenta Kobashi was the little brother, even though when it comes to size, Kenta Kobashi was way bigger. Now, my thing is, and people ask where it's like, why'd you like Kobashi over Misawa? To me in pro wrestling, I want to see emotion out of wrestlers, right? I want to see when a guy is, when he's angry, when he's full of joy, when he's sad, when he's conflicted, but also when he's determined, right? And I got a whole range of emotions out of Kenta Kobashi. Plus, he was way more of a powerhouse wrestler compared to Misawa. Now, he did his high flying too, because if you go back and watch the matches that he had with like Stan Hansen, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and just Jun Akiyama, all these matches, Kawada, all these matches are crazy. But this one here, bro, this is like the match to where it's like Kenta Kobashi, as great as he was, the one dude he couldn't get past was Misawa. And on this match, it finally goes down for the GHC Heavyweight Championship. This match here, bro, I'm telling you, this match is nuts. It's crazy. There's some bumps in this match that I don't care what the payday is. I don't think I'd ever agree to this, man. And I'm jazzed up, and I've seen this match at least a dozen times. And I can watch this match over and over and over and over again. And I'm so excited.
It's funny that you talk about the bumps because actually, like, I have notes of my live reactions to everything that was going on in order.
Yeah.
And one of them later on is that bump to the outside,
Dude,
which we will get to.
Wild, right?
But
so
my
wild.
God,
Yeah,
the
so
thing
wild.
The thing that I really did like was like I didn't understand a word that was being said by commentary at all, which me as a commentator, that's a very big important part of my presentation.
Correct.
For professional wrestling. But I don't speak a lick of Japanese at all. But I'm trying to branch out to try and kind of learn, just different styles because I feel like that's just going to up my game. And that's kind of how I got this idea to put this up. And
Absolutely.
I love the fact that even though I didn't know what was going on, I didn't know the story. You just did a fantastic job telling me what was going on. And it's given me such a better appreciation of the match itself because I did get that feeling of like, this is just a tough hill to climb. And every big thing that was happening, the crowd was coming in. The commentators were like going up in arms like, oh my God, this is what's happening. And again, I don't know what they're saying, but I can get behind it because I'm like, I'm literally getting goosebumps just talking about it because that's what happened when I was watching it last night.
Energy is energy, my friend. It doesn't have to be explained. It just only has to be felt, my man. Has to be felt, and you can feel it here. And here's the thing, too. I know about as much Japanese as like an 8-month-old. So like, when it comes to the most of the commentary, it's like I can kind of pick up a few little things. However, the energy that you feel, the culmination of Kenta Kobashi's like struggle to just get past Misawa. He's never going to be a top guy unless he gets past Misawa, because he's the benchmark. Misawa is the guy. And just to see this match, to see the culmination, plus, there's a lot of great wrestling moves in professional wrestling. I think probably my favorite and probably the most dangerous wrestling move is the Burning Hammer.
I popped when I saw that.
Oh, the Burning. And he's only done it like 5 or 6 times in his entire career. Because that's when you know something's crazy. But, dude, this match just jazzes me up. And also another thing to point out is that both of these guys are technically past their prime, right? Like, if you look at Misawa, like, he basically just looks like everybody's uncle, still wearing these green and white tights, you know what I mean? And then, like, Kobashi, he's always been in great shape. However, his knees are shot, right? He's had so many knee injuries and stuff like that, let alone he just got through, I believe it was a battle through cancer to where he had to take time off for like 1.5 years, almost 2 years, and then came back to where he thought he was done. So this is him coming back to where he's basically, this is like the start of his legendary title run for the GHC Heavyweight Championship, which he holds for almost 2 years, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But this match here is just like incredible. Once again, there's Steamboat Flair. There's Brett, Sean Taker. You know what I mean? Like, we can go on and on. Angle, Benoit. We could talk about all the greats. Rock, Stone Cold. We could talk about all the great rivalries. Cena, Edge. Cena, whoever, right? But my thing is that this right here, this has to be in the conversation. And in my mind, this is, like, at the very least, top 5 best wrestling matches of all time.
In
top 5.
From my perspective too, is like I'm coming at it from not knowing anything. It's a completely different style that I'm used to. I was telling Kevin on the previous episode that I'm very used to the WWE style, which is very sports entertainment. You got to look for the camera, you got to look for the moment,
the money
draw things
style.
Out. Exactly.
You want to make money in this business, got to know that style, baby.
And it's fascinating going back to watch all this stuff from the past, because obviously the '97 Halloween Havoc match was incredible with Eddie and Ray, and it gave me such a different feeling that I did watching this match, because my exposure to Japanese wrestling was watching Wrestle Kingdom, because somebody told me to watch Shinsuke Nakamura, and within 5 seconds I would get hooked.
Dude.
And I was like, I don't know about that, but all right, cool, whatever. And I checked it out. I think it was Wrestle Kingdom 9. I think that was the one where he made the entrance with the cards on the screen and everything. Within 5 seconds I had goosebumps, and I was like, this something. And he hadn't even wrestled, and I was like, okay. And then I watched the match, and I was like, I've been missing out. But with the time difference, that kind of made it hard to watch. And once I know the result, it's a little bit different for me to go back and watch the match, because I know when the finish is going to come and everything.
Correct.
And for all the matches that I'm watching here, I'm trying not to look for the finish. So I went into this not knowing the finish, not knowing the story, just kind of, going in blind, and seeing the structure of the match compared to what I know from WWE was very different. And it really made me, again, appreciate more that the Japanese look at this as a sport, like a legitimate sport. And that's the presentation.
Yep. And I could tell you, for anybody that's ever has the privilege of going to wrestle over in Japan, it's basically like, I could tell you, like, the hierarchy of athletes that come over there. Like, first of all, if you represent the country in any way, shape, or form, like, you're always going to get treated top tier. But when it comes to the hierarchy of like, I would say, grandeur, or basically popularity when it comes to sports, it's basically like sumo wrestlers and baseball players are like your top 2. Right outside of that is pro wrestlers. Like, pro wrestlers get looked at the same way as we would look at NFL athletes here in the United States as anything else. So it's one of those things to where this, like, pro wrestling gets taken very seriously over there. Let alone it's very appreciated. And, of course, you have different companies that represent more of an entertainment style. They represent more of a high-flying, spotty style, if you need to say. And then there's also more of a traditional, methodical style. And I can tell you, in this match here, this is more of a like a do or die, like that nice buzzword that all fans know, that fighting spirit, right? That's one thing that Japanese fans love more than anything, is that it's not about how much you can take. It's about how much you can take and keep going. Having that fighting spirit, that never say die type of attitude and energy. And when it comes to like that King's Road style, which was created in the All Japan realms, I can tell you this is about as good as a King's Road style as you can get in this match. And like, buddy, enough talking about it. We got to watch this match. We got to watch this match. We got to watch this match right now.
I mean, if we could pull it up without it having going to the microphones, absolutely. But man, the match itself again was just it started off with just your regular competition, you know, the lockup and just trying to get the better of one another. But quickly, like I think within like 4 or 5 minutes or so, it just started devolving into an all-out fight, even on the outside. Some of the stuff that they did outside with like the guardrail miss spot where I think Misawa was the one that took the guardrail right to the midsection.
Yeah.
Like that was rough to watch.
Yeah, there's a match that he had. I'm trying to remember who it was with. I don't know if it was against Marufuji or somebody else, but he took basically, or it might have been Kobashi or somebody. My memory is failing me on that, but he basically took this crazy bump into the guardrail into the side to where it caught his chin, caught his mouth, to where he went for a splash from the outside onto an apron, and the guy sidestepped him, and he basically, no pun intended, he ate the guardrail. Like he literally smashed his face into the top of the guardrail, and blood just pouring out of his mouth, everything like that. And still, obviously, you continue the match, because that's one thing that like a lot of people don't realize is that, you know, and it's so good to where you see it now in WWE that if you see blood, if you see a certain injury, we're very quick to like go ahead and like try and to control that situation by trying to stop the blood. You want to make sure that the performer, the wrestler, is going to be okay, stuff like that. But like very old school to where it's like, hey man, it's almost like Hardcore Holly used to say, it don't hurt unless the bone shows. You know, if you just get a busted lip or a busted jaw and there's just some blood, hey, you keep going. You got another 20 minutes, pal. Let's make this work. And like Misawa was just so tough, dude. But like that's the other thing too, is that like considering this match here, it's one of those things that, like, once again, both of these guys are considerably past their prime, right? To where you might have some fans that look at this match, or they might have looked going into this match of like, okay, cool, this would be good, but they're not going to do all the crazy stuff that they did back in the day, like 10 years prior, when they were, you know, spring chickens, just so full of life and didn't have all these, you know, mountains of injuries that piled up and everything like that. But dude, no, both of these guys went full tilt craziness, man. And just and like everything means something too. Like when it comes to like the wrestling and stuff like that, everything means something. Like and you know, that's one thing that like I appreciate from a performer, is that there's no wasted movement. It's like the certain key moves and things that you go for, you want to try and go for it early to gain the advantage. And then, of course, like if you know your opponent real well, you counter each one, right? And then you just go right back into wrestling, because at the end of the day, wrestling's always on the marquee, right? So it's not like you can just go in there and just do spots, brother. You got to go in there and show that you know how to work, you know how to wrestle. And these guys do a phenomenal job, but it's just one of those things too of like, you go back and watch this match and it's like just working just the wrist lock, you know, just trying to get advantage on the wrist lock and doing this stuff is just crazy. And like each guy trying to go for like the head and arm back, you know, exploder suplexes and doing all this stuff. Plus when they do hit it, they do land on top of their head.
That was also rough.
Yeah, because like Kobashi, I think he took one like within the first couple minutes, and then like he just rolls out to where he's like, which is obviously like, hey, if you land on top of your head, you're not just going to G up and then throw a line or whatever like you see most wrestlers do today. If you land on top of your head, you need to roll out and do a system check and be like, hey, are my toes still wiggling? Like, do I have function in all my extremities? Like, that would make most sense. And these guys obviously do that. And like, once again, they're doing stuff like jumping out to the outside and doing all this stuff to where like, hey, these guys are like in their 40s, man. Like, they're not in their early 20s, mid 20s, maybe in their early 30s. No, they're in their 40s. Like, and these guys are just still going at it. Still, like, no, like, not, well, no pun intended, but they're not pulling any punches. There's no slap of the thighs in this match. You know what I mean? It's flesh on flesh, and it's just so cool to watch, man. It's so cool to watch. I love it.
Now, something that's actually that I found fascinating myself is that Heather, my wife, for those listening that don't know, she's not a wrestling fan at all. She finds it a little hokey at times because she can kind of always feel when that kick out is going to come out of two. It's like, well, why couldn't the match just end right there? I showed her bits and pieces of this match, and I showed her the Halloween Havoc match because that's the one we watched together. Yeah. And she was just blown away. She's like, that's wrestling. Like, whenever you explain wrestling to me, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I just find it fascinating that it's not even just the Japanese style that does it, because the 1997 match was here in America, WCW style and everything. Where do you think that disconnect comes from? That's what it was in 2003, and now where we are 2025. That maybe is that just the American style, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's one of those things too, to where it's like, from a performer aspect, and this is something that you always have to keep in mind, is that like if you've seen things enough times, then it's no different than a television show, right? To where, or if you watch a movie, to where you might want to try and be like, oh, okay, I kind of see where the plot's going. This is just kind of the good old story of this, that, or whatever. They might have a twist or two. You know, when you always get somebody that, like, you watch a movie and you're like, oh, well, that guy's the killer. You know what I mean? Then come to find out, it's like, oh, that was the killer. How'd you know? Well, it was very obvious. Like, wrestling's kind of that same thing, to where, like, you can kind of tell of just like, hey, this person, when they go for a pin here, you obviously know they're going to kick out, right? Or this situation happens. Okay, well, obviously you know that it's going to continue into this. What makes a wrestling match great is that whatever you think is coming, they do something different. Right. And then also at the same time, it's like the things that actually do mean something actually get portrayed in a way to where, oh, wow, that actually meant a lot, as opposed we're not just going in there just doing stuff just to do stuff, which I think is what we get caught up a lot in wrestling. Because, and once again, it's not like knocking any style or anything like that, but, you know, in this day and age, man, it's all about action, 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 movement, because people's attention spans are just so small. I mean, we have TikTok, we have Reels, we have Twitter, we have all kinds of stuff.
It's called X now.
Right, X, I know, right. That's how you know I'm old, or it's all like, it's a Twitter with the blue bird on it. Anyways, but that's the thing. It's just constant stimulation. It's constant. What's the next thing? Next thing, next thing, next thing. So in wrestling, it kind of almost has to, you kind of feel like that you have to fall into that line to where it has to be something right after the other, right after the other, right after the other, pinfall here, this, that, whatever. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that, because you want to be able to tell a story. And in order for people to give a crap about a story, then you have to give them reasons to care about characters, care about the plot, care about, you know, the foreshadowing of what might be coming next. And that takes a little bit of time to do. It does, right? And in this match here, they do just such a brilliant job of just like, and that's another thing with Japanese style. It's like, the story's not being told by going out and doing a bunch of interviews and segments to try and get over and sell the match. The match sells the match, right? Like, that's just the whole thing. And, you know, that's the thing, is that, like, the story itself between these two guys, and like how one dude has never been able to beat this other dude for this or not only just championship, but just in general. That's a story that's been taking place for years, actually well over a decade, because these guys came up together. You know what I mean? Which, once again, stories take time to develop, which can be, you know, it depends on what platform you're on or what platform you're looking at, because it can be a little challenging at times to kind of get these stories across, because, once again, instant gratification. Got to have it now. Got to do this. Got to have it now. To where normally a story that would take about a year to kind of get across, oh, well, how can we get it across in like 6 weeks? You know what I mean? And it's just like, well, you're kind of taking the carpet out from underneath us, you know what I mean? But this is what I appreciate. Actually, this is the match to where Kenta Kobashi moved out of the way. So this is the same match to where I just saw it. I'm playing it on my phone here on the side to make sure I'm not missing anything. But yeah, he basically eats the guardrail in this match and just sidestepped them. And it's just like, okay, cool, and freaking ate it. And now he's bleeding out of his chin.
That was like about 10 minutes in,
and
yeah.
Kobashi he just drops this leg on the back of his head. It's so amazing, dude. Like, and just such an unorthodox style of offense to where it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you do that? It doesn't always have to be the clean, crisp, Will Ospreay Ricochet style of wrestling, which don't get me wrong, it's fantastic. It's amazing what those guys can do. But also, like, I don't know, have you ever seen a beautiful fight? It's something that looks like ballet. No, you want to see a fight where a guy might slip and fall down a little bit, or maybe he throws a punch and completely wildly misses and loses his balance and stuff like that. To me, that's what makes a really good fight, is that a fight is actually a fight. And head and arm suplex, or head and arm German suplex on the outside. Oh God. Anyways, continue.
So something that I also found fascinating, again, my mind is molded by the WWE style, right? Is that within like a minute, or even with the entrances, you already know who the face is, you already know who the heel is. And the two matches so far that I've watched from Japanese style, kind of really didn't have that distinction, and you kind of just, were there for the spectacle of these two people are fighting.
Correct.
Was there a heel and face in this, or was it just like master and student?
It's basically, I can tell you from this paradigm of this match here, it is basically, this is the heel, babyface does not matter. This is just all about the story of these two guys, because they're so over, they're so well known. Everybody's seen countless like classic matches out of both these guys with numerous different opponents, and also themselves, right? Because these guys have wrestled, Misawa and Kobashi have wrestled each other at least like 20 something times up to this match. And that's another thing that what makes this so great, is that out of all these matches these guys have had, the one on the tail end is their best one. Their best one. Not the second, the third, the fourth, or the fifth. It's the latest one that they've had, right? Now, some people might say, well, that's only because they wrestled each other so many times. Not really. Sometimes, you kind of fall into complacency, or, hey, let's do the same thing or whatever. They found a way to still be innovative, to figure out ways to where it's like, hey, I might have gotten this in the third match, but I'm going to try and go for this, and Misawa counters that, which no one expects it. Or something that Misawa always connects with, Kobashi actually counters it, right? Once again, going back to, hey, whatever you think, how you think it's going to play out, something swerves and it goes completely different. Plus, also, the Death Divine spots to where you're getting tossed from the outside all the way down to the floor and all this other stuff. Like, who could have saw that coming? You know what I mean? Like, but once again, with the hype of this match and where it's at, plus also brand new company, both of these guys are basically through and through All Japan guys. Now they're representing a completely different company, trying to make their own footprint into the realms of the Japanese pro wrestling, or pro wrestling in general. It's like, you got to up the ante, man. But heel and babyface does not matter when it comes to like competition. And here's the thing, if you're over enough, because I mean, you can kind of think of it like this, like in WrestleMania in Vegas, right? Like, yeah, you could say Seth Rollins was like basically the heel of that match, right? Mm-hmm. Or you might say Roman Reigns. But nobody really looked at it like that when it came to that triple threat between Punk, Rollins, and Roman. It was basically the story of all these guys have connected history. And then you got the wise man, Paul Heyman, who's got history with two out of those guys, right? And then it's like, well, he's going to go and corner this one guy, even though he's been the wise man for Roman and all that. It wasn't about babyface heel. It was so many different elements in that whole one match. Nobody really cared, because there's a lot of people that love Roman, a lot of people love Punk, a lot of people that love Rollins. How's this going to go? So babyface heel really doesn't always have to be, wrestling doesn't always have to be black and white. You know what I mean? It really just depends on the story. And sometimes it's not about, well, who's good and evil, because really, I mean, you could look at Avengers. Thanos was the bad guy, but was he really the bad guy? He was just trying to...
Thanos was right. You heard it here first.
You know what I mean? Like he was just trying to save the universe in the worst way possible, but he's a true heel. He's like, what he believes is right, what he believed would actually make the universe a better place. But unfortunately, he thought, oh, well, I have to kill half of life to make that happen, because I don't want the same thing to happen to other planets that happen to my home planet. So I need to basically perform universal genocide to save lives, right? And then he actually became a legitimate heel when at the tail end of, what was it, Endgame, to where he's all like, well, I realize I made a mistake, that if I kill half of life, The half that survives, they'll always remember what happened, and they might have an uproar and revolt. So now I need to kill all life and start over fresh, and then they'll never know. Right? That's when he became a true heel. Up to that point, he wasn't a heel at all. He was just like, hey, man, I'm going to get these stones, and I'm going to make things better, and whatever. If you don't like it, like, move over there. Time stone. You know what I mean? Like, just a soul stone. Get over there. So, anyways, but yeah, with this match, and I know I'm rambling at this point, but yeah, with this match, the babyface heel doesn't matter. We just want to see good competition, brother.
And it really did feel like a good competition because again, at the end, I was just like pulling for both of them because I had no idea where it was going to go.
Right.
And the only thing that I knew about it was, again, this is considered one of the greatest matches of all time, but also it was kind of like I said, the master teacher dynamic of like, you know, one person couldn't beat the other and stuff like that. So that's the only thing I knew. Going in. I didn't even know who was the master, who was the teacher. I was just going in and expecting something nuts. And that's actually what delivered because this is by far one of the most hard-hitting matches I've ever witnessed because these dudes are literally trying to kill each other, even though, you know, it's still in the scope of pro wrestling.
Yeah, and also I will say this, and this is kind of like a weird common thread because I know when we were leading up to sitting down to talk about this, you were like, hey man, I'm going to try and find the link and this, that, whatever to watch this match. How hard was it to find this link? It was kind of a little difficult, right? Yeah. Well, that also goes to show you how great this match was because if anybody wants to go and watch this match, you got to pay money to see it. Right? And it's one of those things where it's like, it's not just something that, I mean, granted, everything's pretty much on YouTube. Everything's pretty much on a bunch of different platforms. But like this match is still to this day in 2025, almost 2026, is still kind of hard to find. And luckily enough, you found it. Because even I was looking for it, and all I found was just highlight reels and just reels of just the highlights of this match and stuff like that. Because I actually have this match on DVD.
Nice.
Back at the house. Oh, yeah. IVPvideos.com was a staple for me in Japanese wrestling. I don't even know if the website's still around. I think it is. But basically, it's this guy that basically burned all the, like, basically anything that you can think of in Japanese wrestling or even in European wrestling. He burned them on DVDs and Blu-rays and made like custom compilations for like basically anybody that was anyone that ever came through Japanese wrestling, like AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, Kenta Kobashi, Misawa, Great Muta, and like basically has like these giant like 10-disc like compilation packs, you know, but also like the DVDs and the Blu-rays, they're stupid cheap too. You can get like a DVD with like 8-9 matches on it, full length, unedited. You can get them for like $5.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's great. IVPvideos.com, man. Shout out to that. I don't even know if they're around anymore, but they are. Go check them out. It's worth it. And if you still got a DVD or a Blu-ray player, since everything's streaming now, then by all means, it's totally worth it. If you are a true blue Puro wrestling fan, you know what I mean? So like try and go check this out. But dude, just I'm also seeing right now in this match like the back and forth of like attempting the backdrop drivers and the Saito suplexes and just going back and forth on just trying to get the double underhooks, and these guys just, I mean, and also too, it's like with these suplexes, neck bridges are just so important as a pro wrestler. You gotta have a strong neck because these dudes laying on their head so many different times and all this other stuff, and just everything means something. Every strike is just totally in there. There's no slapping of the leg for theatrical, you know, effect. It's man, it is the essence of pro wrestling. This match is one of those, you always hear this in interviews to where it's like, if you took a stranger off the street and they were like, what is pro wrestling? You only had one match to show them, you would show them this match or whatever. This would be the match that I would show anybody. I'd be like, this is pro wrestling. This is what I do. This right here. Maybe not as good, but pro wrestling. I try, you know, and do all that. But you said it before with your fiance, to where it's like, you know, watch wrestling and stuff like that, and like she can kind of tell like when this is gonna happen, or like when she likes this, like, oh, that's actually the best like opinion to get from a performer or somebody in the business. It's like, dude, you don't want opinions from somebody that always watches wrestling, right? Because they're not the casual viewer, right? You want to watch people that don't normally watch this and go, oh, these are things that I like, because they don't know that much about wrestling. Like, oh yeah, tell me a little more about that, which you can add that to your own work and stuff like that, because that's all what we're trying to get. Like, even though there's a crap load of people that love wrestling, watch wrestling all the time, and do all this, there's still, I don't know, out of the 8 billion people that are on this planet, there's still a crap load of them that have never seen pro wrestling, don't watch pro wrestling, or don't even know anything about it, right? So it's like, well, what can we do to get that on us? I mean, that's the reason why WWE does it every week, right? They're not trying to cater to the diehard pro wrestling fan. They're trying to cater to the dad or the mom that watches, you know, what is it, Bachelor or Bachelorette Island or Love Island or whatever it's called now, and be like, how can I give a crap about Rhea Ripley and this Io Sky chick that's, you know, wrestling right now? How could I care about that? You know what I mean? Like, and that's, if you can get them, you can get anybody.
And that's why I take Heather's opinion so much to heart, because she gives me such insight that I'm like, how did I not see this? And it's because I see it from I've been watching this stuff for 20 years. So it's like, that's the eye that I come at it from. And you know, it's in an industry that I'm very passionate about. So just whenever I just give her like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And, you know, she gives me honest feedback, because she knows I tell her, don't hold back. Tell me what you really think. She's like, it was okay. It was kind of hokey. Instead of, okay, cool. And it was actually really funny, because I took her to Dynamite when they were here in Rosenberg a few years back. And the one thing that caught her eye was not the wrestling. It was actually a vignette from Toni Storm whenever she first started doing the timeless stuff on the screen. And she's like, I want that.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay,
gimmick, man.
Interesting.
Good for her.
And I love that that's what, you know, hooked her in. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to hook her in with more stuff, you know, to keep watching wrestling and whatnot. But her opinion has been fantastic. And to kind of circle back to the match too, you talked about the strikes, and, you know, that's got to mean something, and, you know, no wasted motion. And I'm giving everybody that I have here the option to peel back the curtain as much as they want, but Kobashi's chops are legendary. I've always heard about them. Like, they're like some of like the hardest hitting chops and everything.
Yes.
And watching this match, I'm like, how is this safe, dude? Like, he is literally chopping the crap out of Misawa's neck. Like,
there's nothing safe about it. You just take it like a grown man. Oh God. Yeah. So to answer your question, it's not safe. It's totally, as we say in the business, it's a little snug, brother. Right. But that's what. Here's the thing. It's like, pro wrestling is a physical endeavor. Like, we're actually hitting people. That's why, you know, when people say the F word, I'm just like, bro, are you kidding me? Like, there's no way. And that's also the other thing too, is that from a performer aspect, you have to make contact. You want to be able to do that, because my thing is too, is that, you know, when you watch a movie, right, and you're watching, let's say we're watching the Avengers, I want to believe that that's really Tony Stark in the Iron Man suit that's flying around as Iron Man. I don't want to see the green screen. I don't want to see, you know, the wires that pick him up and go and do this, because that takes me out of it, right? And I feel like when you watch wrestling and you see guys or girls that might miss the connect on a strike, or something happens to where, you know, they're trying to be safe, but it just didn't look good or anything like that. And granted, obviously safety is everything, right? Because your body's your vehicle, and we get beat up inside that ring, right? And all that other stuff. It's one of those things too, of just like, hey man, if we got to make it look good, then you got to connect. You know what I mean? And just when it comes to Kenta Kobashi's chops, and see, that's the other thing too, even though he's long retired, he's been retired for almost 20 years, okay? He's long retired. Anytime he makes an appearance or anything like that, there's always a part to where he might get chopped by somebody and they sell the crap out of it. That's the thing. They're really selling it, because that's what he's known for, is basically the spinning back chops that he does, you know, the chops that he throws. I mean, another match, and a lot of people have probably seen this, is there's a Pro Wrestling Noah event called Destiny. It's basically Pro Wrestling Noah Navigation Destiny 2005. It was basically in the summer of 2005. It was in the Tokyo Dome. There's a match between Kenta Kobashi and this guy named Kinsuke Sasaki. And Kinsuke Sasaki's just like this jacked, brute powerhouse of a wrestler. And that's the match to where they chopped each other like over 100-something times. Like, for basically for a solid 4, almost 5 minutes, just back and forth chops to where when they started chopping each other, you're just seeing the sweat fly. By the end of the chop exchange, both of their chests are like dark purple and red from just constantly hitting each other. And the fans are losing their minds. But that's also, once again, just imagine you and me just stand like, all right, you slap me as hard as you want in my chest, and I'm going to slap you as hard. And we're going to do this for the next 5 minutes. Nonstop. Ready and go.
I'm good after 3 seconds because I took a chop from Gino once and I started crying.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Gino's got heavy hands, man. Chino knows how to chop. So does Oz and a couple other guys. I mean, so does Ryan Davidson, brother. But, yeah, man, just that right there. The physicality is top notch. And me personally, like, there always has to be physicality. You can't, you know what I mean? I mean, it's like, there's physicality on a lockup. Why wouldn't there be on a chop? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, Kenta Kobashi's no joke, man. No joke.
The other thing that I also really liked was the fact that the structure of the match was different than what I'm used to.
Yes.
Which, again, peeling back the curtain just a little bit from what I know, is you start out with, the wrestling, but then there's the babyface shine, then there's the heel heat, and then there's the finish, and you can kind of play with that formula however you want.
Yeah.
But for this match, there was like no story moment, so to speak, in the regular WWE style, where it's like, we're going to focus just on this. The camera's going to be right here and everything. It was very much I'm going to hurt you with everything I connect with. And that was basically like the story of the match, the competition. And it was I don't want to say it was a jarring style. It was just a very different thing that I'm not used to.
Yeah.
But it drew me in.
Yeah.
And I think that just speaks to the amount of talent that these people have to be able to draw you in when you don't know their names, when you don't know what's happening with commentary, when you don't know anything. There was a random shot of a guy that was blonde in the stands, and I was like, or not in the stands, like in the back by the wall. I was like,
yeah.
I don't even know who that guy is, but I know that he's probably a big deal in this story, and I'm just like, I want to know more, just because of the way these two guys are beating the hell out of each other.
Yeah, man. And like that's also the other thing too, is like the structure of like, and once again, it goes with the story. It doesn't always have to be what we call in the business, and peeling back the curtain a little bit, it doesn't always have to be a formula style match, because the formula is basically shine, cut off, heat, comeback, finish, right? In the grand scheme of things. And it doesn't have to be. And like with this match here, there is no set this, there is no set that. It's basically just who's going to gain the advantage, because there's a chunk of time to where Kobashi totally has this match, chunk of time where Misawa totally has this match. Then it goes back and forth. And then of course, all the things they do on the outside and all the way that they, what they're doing in the ring, and like they've already landed on it on top of their heads like 2 or 3 times already, and they're still going. And it's like, that's the other thing too, is like the selling in this match. Like, these guys are basically, like, it's not like, once again, they just lay there for about 20 or 30 seconds and then they get up and then it's like, all right, we run full speed. They are basically trying their best just to get to their feet, and let alone they barely do, and they still find a way to overcome the adversity of what they're going through, that quote unquote fighting spirit, and making things happen, and just the crowd to react to where when both guys just roll into the ring just after doing a death-defying crazy spot to the outside, just rolling in, they lose their minds because they're like, oh my God, they're still fighting. Oh my God, what? I thought that would be it. No, these guys are still going, and they can barely move. They can barely do anything, but yet they're still finding a way to do stuff. And it's fantastic, man. But that's also what makes a great match too. It's not just the performance and what's been done inside and outside the ring. It's the fans. It's how they react to it, right? Like a case in point would be like AJ Styles, Cody Rhodes from Lyon, France at Backlash. What was it?
No, last year, 2024. The camera was just shaking.
Phenomenal match, right?
No
Good
pun
match.
intended.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal match. But what made that match more than anything was the fans in France. You know what I mean? And like I think that also what caters into it too, because there's a lot of great matches that guys and ladies have inside that ring, but like, man, if those fans aren't invested the way that they need to, like, it really just doesn't full tilt, give you exactly what you're trying to display. You know what I mean? So the fans definitely are, always have been, and always will be a part of every single match. You know what I mean? They're not just there to watch. They're there to share the experience. You know what I mean? And that's something as a performer you can't forget about the fans. I know a lot of guys and girls, sometimes they get too much into, I need to focus on this and focus on the next thing. No, like, you're in an arena full of strangers watching you. Like, you need to cater to that and show that into your wrestling. And if you can find that and also find a way to listen to them and be able to change things on the fly, now you're really a performer. Now you really know how to work, which is something that always everybody, going back to Eddie Guerrero, always talks about, like, how Eddie was so great of just like listening to that crowd. You know, John Cena the same way, a master at it, right? Because it is an art form. It is. So, but yeah, I'm just watching this. These dudes, like, they can barely stand, and they're just going back and forth, just spinning back elbows, spinning back chops. They look like they literally, like, Kobashi literally just almost fell out of the ring. You know,
and
crazy.
I like that you actually brought up the fan interactions and everything, because this match didn't really have fan interactions, but I did like the fact that there was a shot after, I forget which spot it was. They actually show a shot of the fans, and you can see their body language, that they're just going nuts. Like, they're in their chairs, but like their legs are just like kicking as if they're nervous and everything. It's like,
dude, yeah.
That's how I feel watching UFC fights and like the main events. Like, when I'm really, really invested into the fight, like, my leg is just going crazy, because I just sometimes I just go like, I'm nervous. When's the knockout coming? When's the submission coming? Holy crap, this fight's intense. And that was the body language that I got just from that crowd shot. People were like, we're watching history right now. Who's going to come out on top? And the fact that, again, they're able to convey that to a crowd that, again, the Japanese style doesn't really cater to crowds, so to speak. It's amazing that the fans are still just there biting at every single thing. And the commentary, again, I was biting with every near fall, because the commentary is like, 1, 2, and I was like, dude, it's insane how much I got into it without understanding what was going on fully.
And that's one thing that you just mentioned this, and this is one thing I want to point out just real quick about why it's one of many things, but it's actually a major thing of why I like Japanese wrestling more than a lot of other styles, is because they make the kickouts and the pinfalls mean something, as they should, right? And it's not just the performers that do it, it's the fans, because they are conditioned to where, depending on what happens before and after, that kick out totally means something, to where if a guy kicks out or if a pinfall happens, the reaction is completely different than what's been done before that pinfall, right? To where most people, they'll react, like, especially in the States, you'll react a lot louder to the spot that just happened rather than what happened during the pin attempt, whether they kicked out or they didn't, right? And to me, in Japanese wrestling, like, a lot of people are just, like, a lot of the fans are conditioned to observe. Like, they react, they yell, and they get loud. I hate it when people are like, oh, yeah, Japanese fans are just real quiet, huh? No, they're just observing. They're just watching, right? They're trying to watch. They're not just sitting there yelling out, you suck, you know, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, they're sitting there just watching what happens. And when you kick out, like, that gets its own different reaction, which is kind of weird for somebody for the first time. If they go to Japan and they really don't know how to kind of cater that crowd, to where they'll do this spot or they'll do this move and they nail it, but the crowd might clap a little bit, and they're just like, why didn't they react like the United States? Because we're not in the United States. We're in a different country. We're on the different side of the planet.
Different culture.
Different culture, right? But when they kick out, whoa, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, he kicked out of that. Now you sit there and go, oh, there they are, right? And that's what I love about Japanese wrestling, is that the pinfalls and the pin attempts actually matter. Freaking burning hammer. I freaking love that move so much. And that's the other thing, too, to where also another thing is, and this is something, so basically I have this played on the phone on the outside, and the match just ended. Another thing that I love about Japanese wrestling when it comes to the pinfalls is the fact of, after the match, right, you got a bunch of guys that rush into the match with ice packs and water, and basically, like, basically just kind of commandeer to the punishment and damage that's been done in that match, which only makes sense because you watch UFC, you watch boxing, right? It's like when the fight's over, everybody bull rushes the ring. You got the trainers checking on the eye, the sports. Exactly. But like you get in the United States and it's like you can see Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins or whoever go out there for 30, 40 minutes and they're just killing each other. And then at the end of the match, it's like the guy's got to get up by himself. He's got to walk to the back by himself. He's got to do it. And I'm like, no, where's the ice packs? Like somebody like, dude, he got hit in his head. Like somebody get that guy an ice pack. Do that. It's that realism. It's that little bit. Because if I go to war with somebody inside that ring, I'm hoping there's at least 2 or 3 people besides the referee to like, hey, ice pack. Hey, bring this. Hey, let's cool you off because you haven't had a drink of water in the past 30 minutes. You know, he basically just did this giant CrossFit workout while somebody's beating on you because that's what wrestling is. Just one giant CrossFit workout from hell, right? And do all that. And like that's something that I appreciate is just they make those things matter because they do, right? And that's just something that I feel like is really missed on like in the States is to where it's like, man, if we just did that a lot more in like the mainstream of wrestling and like the bigger set matches, man, people would really cater in and buy into that more. Me just personally. I mean, granted, my opinion is my own opinion. It's whatever. However, it's just those are things that really like get me, you know, into what's going on more inside that ring. You know what I mean?
So with that said, like you want to bring the Japanese style over here to, you know, that would basically to piggyback off what you said. Would you take that suplex off of the ramp, off to the outside?
How heavy is that envelope, brother? How heavy is that envelope? I don't know. Well, I will say this. I mean, I've been fortunate enough. I wrestled in Korakuen Hall a bunch of times. I've wrestled in Osaka, Nagoya, Sapporo. I've wrestled all around Japan. I've wrestled in pretty awesome buildings. I've been to Ryogoku. Those things. I can tell you, when you're inside those buildings, and I can tell you firsthand, and this is with all due respect to all these other towns, everything like that, the vibe and the energy in the locker room and the performers is that, yeah, okay, we're doing this shot here in Nagoya, right? Or we're doing this shot over here in this other town. But then, you know, if you're wrestling in Korakuen Hall that day, oh, it's a different vibe. Oh, it's a different type of energy, right? So do you ask, hey, would I do that match, or would I take that bump in that type of match in that arena? Yeah, I would. However, I would pray to God, and I would say a quick prayer, be like, please let me make sure I could feel my toes after this. You know, I would say a quick prayer before it happened. But yeah, as a crazy professional wrestler, yes, I would take that.
I would say there was some moments in this match that were just scary for me as an observer, right? Mm-hmm. There was a lot of, you know, Saito suplexes, you know, over under suplexes and everything where they land on their head. Yeah. But the one moment aside from that one spot where, you know, the tiger suplex to the outside that made my heart drop was the tiger driver on the ramp itself right before that happened. Yeah. I saw that and I was like, dude, brother, like what? Like what's going through your head whenever like these two, that's the moment where I like, these two really want to kill each other. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit.
Well, it's not just kill each other. It just goes to show you, especially from the story's perspective, once again, going back to where Kobashi could never beat Misawa until this match. And not only, here's the thing, like he's got a pinfall over him in like a 6-man tag or like a tag team match, but in a singles heavyweight main event match,
it's a completely different ballgame.
He's never beat him until this match. And then he did. So, yeah, he's going to pull out all the stops and literally put him and Misawa's life on the line to make sure that, and that's just, and only adds to the story. And God, it makes pro wrestling good. You know what I mean? It makes it great. And God, love it, man. Can't get enough of stuff because that's what makes pro wrestling amazing, dude. It makes it amazing.
I did also like the like leading into the finish. I recognize the Emerald Flosion just because, you know, obviously I know the history. I've just never seen matches and stuff. Yeah. But seeing the Emerald Flosion in action, I was like, oh, okay, that's the finish. That's got to be the finish. Right. And then whenever Kobashi kicks out, I was like, brother, what?
Right, because he's also, once again, going back to, hey, man, he's beaten him with that same move quite a few times. and he kicks out. Once again, giving the fans how they think it's going to go, and then giving them something completely different. Man, it's just good stuff, dude. It's just good stuff, man. I can't get enough of it. I really can't.
That was truly a sensational match from beginning to end. And again, me going in blind, not knowing what was going to happen, just knowing a little bit of the history of who Kobashi is, who Misawa is, seeing the Emerald Flosion happen, seeing the Burning Hammer happen. That's what I have it in all caps right here. Burning Hammer fucking rules.
Oh, dude, I could tell you whenever I decide to hang them up, the one move that I'm going to do, that I'm going to attempt on whoever is cool enough to take it, brother.
Rudy, you're up.
Will all day, get over here. No, so the Burning Hammer is just a move that like it's just awesome. And I've actually done it once or twice in my career. It's been a while, but I know how to make it look good and take care of the guy, quote unquote. But also, like, a guilty thing is, just to kind of put this out there, like, the reason why I do the bear lariat is because of Kenta Kobashi, right? Now, he does the burning lariat, where it's basically he just stands in just one tilt and he just levels a dude's head off. But the whole reason why I do a lariat is because of Kenta Kobashi. The only reason why I attempt moonsaults in my match is because of Kenta Kobashi, right? Like, there's just so much of this guy that I try to pretty much rip off because he's, in my opinion,
inspired,
yeah. Right? But also at the same time, it's just out of respect, man, to where it's just like, dude, this guy is just incredible, man, and just what a great career, and just one of those things too, to where it's like, the one thing about the greats in our business is that, like, there's a lot of people that know how great they are, but there's not enough people that know how great they are. I can say the same thing about Booker. I can say the same thing about Eddie. I can say the same thing about AJ, Orton, Stone Cold, Taker. The list goes on and on, right? There's a lot of people that know, but there's never going to be enough. And as while I'm breathing, I'm always going to try and make sure that people know how great Kenta Kobashi is, Eddie Guerrero, and all the tops, in my opinion, on what make pro wrestling. You know what I mean?
And that's actually the purpose of the show as well, because I wanted to learn more about the history that I claim to love this sport and I claim to love this industry. Yeah. And yet anything from back then is just, or anything from back before '04 and anything outside of WWE is a massive blind spot for me. There's some TNA sprinkled in there. There's some AEW sprinkled in there, but I've never really taken the time to truly appreciate the history and everything. So with that said, Ryan, I am going to wrap things up here. But thank you so much for the conversation. I really do appreciate the time that you took to go through this, and you're welcome back on this any single time.
Sweet. I totally can't wait.
I think you really bring some of the best perspective, truly, from everything, just because of your, your knowledge and just your passion for everything that you see. I think this is the most fire I've ever seen in your eyes with talking about wrestling, which is fantastic.
Well, I will say this. Last thing I'll say is, hey, man, you talk about you have a blind spot outside of like WWE from like '04 and before. That's a blessing, dude. Like, that's a blessing, okay? Like, don't feel like that you're like, oh, man, I'm missing out, or like try and blame yourself. No, you got this whole world, brother, that you can go ahead and find out, and all this other different wrestling from all corners of this planet. That's awesome. And trust me, no one should ever knock it and be like, what, you don't know about this? Like, dude, I still remember the first time I ever saw ECW. Right? And I first got introduced to ECW like a year before they closed shop. Like back in the day. And I had to go back and watch all the ECWs and everything like that. It was the same way about Japanese wrestling. I didn't find out about Japanese wrestling until about like, maybe I was a year and a half, almost 2 years into the business. And it was like 04, 2005. And I go, wait, what's Dragon Gate? What is this? What's Pro Wrestling Noah? Wait, what? What's New Japan Pro? This sounds familiar. I didn't know about any of that stuff. And I went back and watched it all. And it's a blessing, because what's old is new. And then you go back and go, oh, man, but dude, that's anything. That's movies, that's shows, that's music. It's just everything. But all I got to say is that don't knock yourself for it. It's a blessing. And now that you have this platform to bring in other wrestlers to talk about this common love that we have for pro wrestling, bro, this is great. This is a blessing. This is a win-win-win for everybody. It's a win for you, it's a win for me, and it's a win for everybody that listens to this stuff. And thank you very much for having me on this.
I'm very excited to have more conversations with more people, obviously.
Hell yeah.
That's why I'm telling everybody, you guys are welcome back whenever.
Sweet.
Because I want to talk more wrestling with more people. And we can talk about ECW. actually having Russo on. We're talking about an ECW match.
Oh, which one?
So,
Which one?
Too Cold Scorpion, Dean Malenko. So that's going to be coming up soon. Just a little spoiler for those listening.
Good. That's good.
So I'm very excited to, just expand out and like I said, learn something new, right?
Yeah.
So before we do wrap things up here, would you like to plug any social media? Where can people find you?
Absolutely. X and Instagram at rdbear57, Grizzled Ryan Davidson. That is my name. Go ahead and give me a follow, give me a like, do everything. All interaction is good interaction. And Facebook, I'm kind of on it, kind of not. So basically, we'll just say X and Instagram at rdbear, the number 5, the number 7. Appreciate anybody that listens to this. Appreciate anybody that's been a fan. Love me or hate me. Hey man, if you ever watch a Ryan Davidson match, I appreciate you. So thank you and God bless you.
Absolutely. All righty, guys. Thank you so much for listening. This has been the Miss Retrospective with Kirby Carreon. We will see you next time for more pro wrestling or movie retrospectives.